Now, I know what y'all are thinking. Is this guy serious? I actually am. I think it's a valid statement to make. It's either them being criminals or this is not the profession for them because they have not solved a single crime since Dexter has been on board. And I know this is not Criminal Minds, and they're on a whole different journey for this show. However, it just seems like they would be getting more done, but they are not. And so, for starters, you got to look at the fact that we know they at least have two and a possible for the criminals over there. You start off with our man, Dexter DeBrickashaw Morgan. He's definitely on that side of the game. And you got to think about it. This man is an intern over at Miami Metro. But the thing is, nobody notices that this brother is just like weird as hell. And he kind of like disappears all the time. Like I've never seen an intern be so free in my life. And it wasn't even like he got time to get acclimated. This man been leaving to go hunt down Tony Ferreira. He went over there to go check out things, broke into the man's house. Then you got to talk about the time that Tanya, and we're going to get to her in a little bit, she left after her horse lost that race, and she said, oh, I'm going to go to my daughter's basketball game for like 3 hours. So you mean to tell me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon you left, and then Dexter had no work to really do? And then Masuka's not there because he's normally saying, oh, I'm number two if Tanya's not here. So he hasn't been around most of the series, though. We're almost done with the season right now. And this man has not been in the office like that. But back to Dexter. So when Tanya said she was leaving for that 3 hours, this man went over to the racetrack with Mr. Ed and them, started stealing horse meds so he can knock people out. Like, just disappearing. Nobody said anything. So on the day that Dexter was following Captain Spencer, the captain was on to Dexter because he was really good at his job. But then Dexter was also on to the captain. So Big Cap turned around and said, you know what I'm going to do? Bury him in paperwork. So Dexter, you had all this extra work. You know what Dexter did instead of doing that? He was like, I'm just going to follow the captain. Nobody said, hey, Dexter, what did you do with these cold cases? All these cold cases that are backed up because we're bad at our job. But Dexter's able to solve these the same day almost. I mean, probably in days, but still, he's able to go solve a crime. He could just pick one out the file and just be like, well, let me go follow up on this. It's the person alive. Let me go do some snooping. He figures it out the first few days. But this man goes on a whole stakeout and nobody even says anything. Honestly, Dexter's probably the best detective they have in the force because he's an absolute criminal. So it takes one to know one is that whole thing that he's probably following. He understands because he got those same demons. So for the next person that is pretty obvious, you got Captain Spencer. By now, everybody knows what his situation is. We don't know the details, but we know he's a criminal. I feel like he might work for a cartel or something like that. He's the inside man, sort of like The Departed, where they had the criminal people had like a rat in the FBI or whatever. And I think he's trying to pin this kidnapping business on a rival cartel. But we got to say good luck on that because if he's trying to really pin this on another cartel, he has to plant evidence of Jimmy Powell. Because as the current situation stands, it looks like a one-off kidnapping. Now, the third person who I actually called a possible at first, I was being pretty generous. It's Harry. And the reason why I say it's Harry is because, one, how he trained Dexter. Dexter has all kinds of criminal stuff at his arsenal because of Harry. Two, he was way too comfortable rolling up on Levi Reed's place like that. That man was going off that Hennessy, I know, so that probably gave him some courage. But this man had a silencer on his gun, so he was making a choice. So he knew what he was about to do. And I'm questioning, like, who are you? And how many times have you done this after something didn't go your way? Had it not been for Dexter, he would have completed the job. Now, he probably wouldn't have gotten away because we don't know who would have been looking out the window. There was a lit area. He didn't have a mask on. It was just reckless. And I was glad that Dexter checked him on that when he had him on his table. He was like, what were you thinking? What was going to happen after you did what you did to Levi Reed? And then Dexter was like, you trained me to be a criminal. Let me be a criminal. And then like nothing, Harry was like, use smelling salts to wake people up. He didn't even care. This man was ready to take this dude out already. So let's talk about Tanya. Now, there's not a lot to say about Tanya except she seems kind of suspicious in the fact that she kind of disappears too. But I'm assuming she's doing her job. But the thing that makes me wonder about her is she was like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch my daughter play basketball at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Don't kids play sports after school? Like, how old is this baby? And Dexter didn't care because he was so busy trying to figure out how to go steal some horse tranquilizer instead of going to meet Deb at the house to go to his mom's grave. So like everybody just lets everybody go all willy-nilly. And then you got to think about it. Tanya is the first in command. But then in forensics, Masuka's supposed to be second in command. But that man has only been in the show like thrice. And I'm going to tell you right now, that man could be Masuka the murderer for all we know, because he's only been around so many times. And when we do see him, he's not really impactful to those scenes. I think maybe one scene, maybe he was impactful, but for the most part, he doesn't have much of a role. So he could be doing all kinds of extracurricular activities. Now, there are a few officers that I actually think are good. I think LaGuardia's probably pretty good for now. I think you got Angel, who's pretty good, Bobby, but that's about it. Now, one potential officer that I'm like, it could go either way is Sanders. Like, I like him a lot. I think he's a really cool character, but he's also kind of missing a lot too. And he did see his brother die in front of him. And he said, I never really got to resolve that with my brother. But I wonder if, maybe he out here just shooting people because he's trying to let off steam and he's dealing with the issues that he never got resolved. Now with Sanders, I generally lean toward he's a good cop kind of situation. He's been unproblematic. He's been very helpful, but everybody got a little dark passenger. And he said, I wanted to do something about it. We don't know what that do something about it could have been. Now, if he does in fact turn out to be a really good cop, I hope nothing bad happens to him, because Brian is still out on the loose and who knows what Brian is going to do next, because he's legitimately targeting people who are like outsiders from their families. Like if you haven't had contact, nobody will miss you. And that's a perfect target for him. And this fits Brian's story actually, because, he was abandoned pretty much by his family. He wasn't abandoned by his family, but his family was taken away from him. His mom was murdered and Dexter was adopted, and the Morgans wouldn't take Brian. So maybe that's why he goes after people that won't be missed. And given the fact that Sanders is part of the Liga Bigga Tigga community and his folks ain't really with it, he could potentially be a target for Brian. Now that would be really interesting because Harry is going to commit self-elimination for some reason. Now I'm wondering if it means that Brian is going to be harming one of the other police officers, or he's going to be just really guilty for the poor decisions he's been making his whole life. But part of me feels like Brian is going to have something to do with it. So now that we're done talking about all these criminals, we can actually talk about a potential show opportunity from this. I feel like what Dexter does is if he's hunting down serial killers, then he's hunting down all the bad guys. I wonder if there's a show, and y'all can let me know in the comments, if there's a show where there are serial killers that, they sign up and say, hey, I have these proclivities and I can't get rid of them, and they get to hunt down each other. And it could be like sport. So everybody's in a database after you sign up for your card. And so once you have your identification, those are the only people you can kill. And it will be completely legal. Not gonna hold you. I would watch it. Now, if this exists, let me know. And if it doesn't exist, hey, don't steal my idea. Just slide me about 10% if you want to use it. So that's pretty much it for the video. I didn't want to hold you long. I just had those thoughts and thought I would share. So what do y'all think? Do y'all think I'm reaching? Do you think I might be onto something? Who else do y'all think has a dark passenger like Dexter or Spencer? Drop a comment below. Hit that like button, subscribe if you can, and hit the notification bell for future content. Until next time, take care.